Привет, это существо. Now, originally I was planning on doing this entire intro in Russian. However, I am a red-blooded American, and such commie speak, for whatever reasons, burns the back of my throat, so screw it. Also, I should mention if my voice sounds a little off today, that is because I am currently battling one of the Plague Father's blessings. Anyway, Stalker is a game that came out in 2007, and while I haven't spent much time in the original, I am a massive fan of the source material in which this game was built on. Stalker is a Ukrainian game that has elements of survival horror mixed in with open world elements, a dash of existential horror, and a little bit of milsim shooter. There are 3 Stalker games that came out in 2007, 8, and 9 respectively. I'm not even going to be touching on some of the mods like Gamma. Look, I know in the books it says that Stalkers usually have to lay on the ground for most of the day so that they're not going to get shot at by the patrols, but the closest I will ever allow myself to get to a milsim is Arma 40k.
Oh, that's alive!
He ain't dead! But since my brain automatically catalogs any game from Eastern Europe as shit for the tankaboos, and since the first Stalker game takes place in like 2007, and this game takes place in 2021, out of respect for the Soviet fanboys, let's take a look at the source material. Strugatsky's Roadside Picnic is what inspired the Stalker series. It takes place in the latter part of the 20th century, where an alien civilization that is so unfathomably advanced stopped by Earth and left just as quickly as they came. However, they left a lot of their garbage, like a roadside picnic. Humanity is thus left with a bunch of artifacts that are completely incomprehensible and advanced. For instance, there are things like batteries that never run out of power, perpetual motion devices, and unknown metal alloys. There are useless but nice trinkets that usually sell for a pretty penny, such as empties, which are effectively 2 copper plates that will not go together, and lobster eyes, that are space and time condensed into the size of a pearl. And where there are useful and nice things, there are also absolutely dangerous and deadly things, such as bug traps that exert an insane gravitational force within a localized area that will cause anything that comes in contact with it to be flattened like a fucking pancake, or furnaces that will heat a small area to a respectable fraction of the sun's heat, silvery cobweb-like threads that will stop your heart hours after you gently brush across them, or the grinders that will pick you up off the ground, snapping and contorting your body into some of the most unnatural positions before ripping you to shreds. The book focuses on the Eastern European zone, with 5 others scattered throughout the planet. It's stated that the aliens probably just literally shot through the Earth like a bullet, but for the most part, their method of travel is completely unknown. In fact, most of the stuff in the zone is completely unknown or barely understood. However, the aliens were nice enough to set up a little perimeter around the zone made out of some sort of unnatural black bramble plant life that doesn't allow anything to slip out. If you can imagine, there's more dangerous shit in the zone than there is useful stuff. So the shadow government set up an institute on alien cultures, which is effectively the fun police, which bars any and all people from entering the zone unless they work for the institute. But where there are new and unknown artifacts just kinda lying around, there's going to be eccentric billionaires that wish to purchase these artifacts through less than legal means. This is where the Stalkers come in. Wealth, fame, power. Vulture, one of the first Stalkers' words drove countless souls to the zone. There's a golden orb that grants wishes at the center of the zone. Now, you just need to find it. These words drove countless men in search of dreams greater than they had ever imagined. And thus started the Great Stalker Era. But not everything is all wonderful and nice, as you're inevitably going to have to take responsibility and put down the bastard children left by the other Stalkers. And you will occasionally come in contact with some of the people who were buried around the zone previous to the visit happening, who have just kind of gotten up out of their graves and gone about their daily life like it's nothing. At first, people were absolutely horrified by this, but now they've kind of grown accustomed to it, and the effects of the zone are not limited just to the zone, as anybody who was present whenever the aliens visited are legally unallowed to immigrate anywhere. Since, let's say you were near the zone whenever the aliens showed up, and now you've decided to move somewhere else and you set up a little store. At first, a few of your regular customers start dying off in random accidents, and then, eventually, everyone who visits your store dies in a random accident. And a few weeks later, natural disasters are absolutely destroying the area in which you live as the zone reaches out and tries to kill you specifically, taking millions along with with you. So if you were around the zone whenever the aliens showed up and you try to leave, the authorities are going to shoot you to death. In Roadside Picnic, the zone is relatively uninhabited due to the vast amounts of anomalies that seem to carpet the entire zone, making even going into the zone a gamble with one's life. The zone in the game is very different. In the books, bringing a gun in the zone is just seen as dead weight since there isn't going to be anything that you're actually going to need to shoot at, but in the games, yeah, you're definitely gonna need a fucking gun. Because unlike the doting parents of the horrific xenoid humans, human being used in the absolute loosest way possible, we can recognize these horrific abominations for what they are. The very existence of these entities that attempt to masquerade as human is a slap in God's face. Where in Roadside Picnic, the zone was created due to a bunch of aliens showing up and just leaving a bunch of their shit laying around, the zone in the games was created whenever a bunch of Soviet scientists decided to attempt to probe into the noosphere, which is effectively the collective consciousness of humanity, in an attempt to rid humanity of its flaws. However, something happened with 3 random dipshits, and now the zone is continuing to grow. The game takes place after the first game, or 3, or shit lot more depending on how you want to look at it. After getting the traditional Eastern European greeting, and then waking up to a dog trying to eat you, you understand what it means to be a Slav. And Skiff, like all of those of Russian descent, can utilize their racial trait to use potato liquor to instantly purge any and all radiation from his body. To fully experience this game, one must have the right diet, one consisting of nothing but off-brand energy drinks, moldy bread, and sausages. Water is a luxury in the zone, and should only be used when absolutely necessary. I have left some bread in my fridge to properly marinate, allowing the latent ergot spores to ferment, allowing me to take full advantage of the ergotamine and reach the noosphere so that I can ask the Soviet scientists what the fuck is going on. I don't know where I got this rifle from, but it's mine now. The art direction and sound really captures what it's like to be in Eastern Europe, that being in an extremely hazardous environment surrounded by a concerning amount of feral dogs, and where 90% of all of the other humans want to hurt you. And God help you when the Vermintide comes. At its core, it is a survival shooter, and there is no fast travel. However, the map is split up into different areas, each of which being relatively self-contained, so you're not going to have to worry about backtracking too much. And to be completely honest, so far I've been having a lot of fun just kind of running around like your average Ukrainian. The game is pretty good, and considering that games like these are a loot goblin's paradise, I'm in heaven. And in all honesty, you're going to need to be a loot goblin. Even after getting some artifacts and selling them along with enough food and meds to supply an entire army, after repairs, we are barely breaking even. And you're going to need to repair your guns, lest you hear that quiet but deafening followed by horrifying silence as whatever you are pointing your gun at proceeds to rip you to shreds. The map is filled with mutants and bandits, all of which want you dead, and as you scurry around them, you will be dealing with the anomalies. These can either be the gravity traps mentioned earlier that will compress your body from all directions and then violently decompress you, or areas where the winds are so violent that you are left as nothing but a red stain, or even some fire traps, electric traps, poison, and so forth and so on. And it's usually a good idea to be aware of your surroundings, not only for the inconspicuous murder traps, but also because enemies can cloak and they will see you before you see them. It's also fun to just kind of wander around the zone and meet some of the other stalkers that are wandering around, since not everybody in the zone is going to be outright hostile with you. You'll meet fun and enigmatic characters such as Max Hardcore, Max Sleepy, and oh shit, what up, Leshy? The relics are going to be your main bread and butter, and you can find them by just kind of looking around or going to different points of interest. If upon entering an area you are not immediately attacked by a pack of feral gopniks, then look for an area with a lot of anomalies, whip out your scanner, and go to town. The artifacts can be equipped for stat buffs like increased bleed resistance, radiation resistance, but they will usually have a drawback of something like constantly being irradiated. However, I have found that there is no shortage of food or medical supplies in the zone, and as an American, I'm about 90% sure that I have indirectly paid for some of these items, so I will be reclaiming them now. The gunplay is also pretty good. The guns feel good, and there's even a little bit of bullet drop. However, despite me making a lot of haha dumb funny Slav jokes, the inhabitants of the zone are not your average gopniks. They are the elite of the elite. they are able to pinpoint your location in a nanosecond. Then in the next, coordinate your exact location with all of the other feral Slavs using strange sounds and grunting, commonly referred to as the Russian language. Once they've seen you, epigenetic triggers in their brain actuate, allowing them to perfectly stabilize an AK-47 that hasn't been serviced in over 45 years, allowing them to unleash an absolute piss laser of 7.62 directly into my skull. Look, I don't really care about the story of this game, and so far I'm just kind of skirting around actually talking about it. So I won't. If you're curious, you have a device that can recharge anomalies and yours gets stolen. For me, the most fun that I've had in this game is just kind of wandering around the zone looking for stuff to loot and trying to hunt down anomalies. I like being able to wander around in this almost alien environment, running into other stalkers and trading, or killing bandits and muties. I don't really know how to describe this, so I'm going to be using a zoomer word. This game is a vibe, and there's a lot of charm in this game. Charm that bleeds through even more clearly whenever you're just kind of walking around. Chilling out at a campfire with a bunch of stalkers at night is very cozy, all things considered. However, you should definitely be watching the skies, because whenever you hear
Stalker-E, наближається викид. Усім в укриття. Без нього розкішний похорон з оркестром. Власним коштом.
you're gonna need to find cover very quickly, because if the sky turns red, you're about to be dead. And if you're lucky, you will just outright die. Those of us who are unlucky will get back up and start shambling around the zone as nothing more than corpses, hollowed husks, wandering around this alien environment. And I should also mention that the emissions, while being very scary as all hell breaks loose outside, do lead to some of the more cozier spots in the games. As if you're near a settlement whenever an emission is about to happen, you and all of the other stalkers beeline into whatever facility or building you can, which gives you a little bit of time to just kind of take a breather and relax, go through your inventory, or just kind of hang out with the other stalkers. But I'm gonna be honest, this game is a bit buggy if you can't tell. As of writing this, they patched the game and somehow broke the scopes. This forced me to use a shotgun, resulting in me yeeting mutants across the map. Stalker is an odd game, but it's a cult classic and it's very unique. I can't really think of a game that is really similar to it besides those that are just direct knockoffs of it. However, there's a VR one that I really do enjoy. I've heard some people call this game Russian Fallout, and I gotta say, that description could not be more wrong. Fallout is a campy post-apocalyptic game, whereas in Stalker, there is no apocalypse. In fact, we see the main character chilling in his apartment before the game even starts. The zone is just that. It's a zone. It's an anomalous area in a relatively normal world. However, the zone is its own world in and of itself. With many different factions and different ideologies all inhabiting the zone, they're all fighting and vying for power and control over an inherently uncontrollable area. The zone is an interesting area. It's unique, it's novel, and it feels almost alien. And I genuinely can't think of any other type of game or story that pulls off the same thing that Stalker does. It's a very good game, 8 out of 10. I like it. It's a continuation of the previous games, so you're going to be seeing some old characters pop up. It's a very fun and alien environment, and the aesthetic of the old Soviet shit-shack concrete buildings really adds to the oppressive feel of the zone. I genuinely don't think this kind of game or atmosphere would really work anywhere outside of the old Soviet bloc. The game constantly balances between that depressing and oppressive feel that is common for games that come out of Eastern Europe with an odd sort of coziness and charm. The emissions are deadly, and if you find cover, you're given a few minutes to just kind of chill out. And if you're near a settlement, you can kind of just chill out with the other stalkers and listen to them talk and play music. It's a very good game, and it is extremely unique. It's very hard to describe since it is so novel, so I highly recommend that you go out and play it. Go out, buy it, and try it out for yourself. There isn't really any other games that are like Stalker out there that I can think of, so definitely try it out. Also, I've hit 5,000 subs, which is absolutely insane. So I just wanted to tell everybody thank you so much for getting me this far. This is absolutely wild to me. Literally earlier this year, we only had 300, but now we're at 5,000. So again, thank you so much for just subscribing, watching, leaving comments, and, just enjoying the videos. Anyway, have a Merry Christmas or whatever it is that you celebrate, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
For a guy like me, and I know for sure that with are meant to be. If your heart is locked, then I may have open key. Could you please be mine? Hey, you trapped my soul, you broke my no. I think you're safe, cause you stole my heart, trapped my soul like a superstar.